Good morning, guys, or afternoon or evening. It is morning here in the States. I want to apologize for upfront for my voice. Um, Apparently, I was on vacation last week. I was on holiday, and I picked up a little cruise crud. So I apologize. I've taken some meds, and hopefully my voice will still come through, but it'll still feel like it's a little off. There's a little graininess in it. So sorry about that. Excuse me. Hey Prue, what's going on? Yeah, yeah, just apologizing up front just for the not the audio, but my voice. So I really apologize for that. So anyway, he did man for yesterday. Got to mention a necropolis planet from Farscape that included a suicide jump where if you jumped hands first, you ended up dying at the bottom. But if you jumped in the suicide form, laid out flat, you'd be saved by the spirits of the necropolis. We're already look. All right, storyteller. Already starting into it. Let me just give a little preamble. Today's Wednesday. It's World Building Wednesday. We start world building. All right, let's get into it. So, Dead Man brings up the point of when we start to create worlds in which we have life and death and rebirth and an afterworld and what happens when you die and are there undead creatures and where do they come from and what do we do about it? He brings up the Farscape necropolis where if you do a suicide jump, in other words, like if you have it's almost like a puzzle in many ways, right? Where you can have a part of your world where if you sacrifice yourself, if you trust that you will, if you trust in the energy or the spirits or the enchantment in a particular region, that if you do it in such a way that it's like you're going to die, that you'll be saved. You just lay yourself out, very much like Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, where there was a writing on the wall, it gave a little riddle, and you have to trust yourself. And it looked like he was going to fall down into a pit. He just closed his eyes and took a free step, and when he stepped out, he's standing on solid ground because anyone else who didn't trust in it would avoid it. And this might be the case in terms of like this location, this necropolis, where if you jump like hands first, like if you're expecting to hit the bottom, you're expecting to like you want to be safe, you want to climb down into this particular region, nothing's going to happen. But if you do the suicide jump, if you just like, you know what I mean, fold your arms over your chest and fall backwards, that you'll be safe and you'll be saved or maybe transported or something like that. And it could very much be a twist kind of on how we in our modern society look at how religion has shaped suicide versus its difference in, say, an ancient culture such as Japan, in which you have a ritualized suicide and it means something completely different. So you can either pick one particular type of result in your world, or the way someone dies, maybe if their spirit is not laid to rest, if they are not given death rites, whether they're not buried or their bodies aren't burned, or their bodies aren't burned and they're put out to sea, or there are some cultures where they hang the bodies up in the trees or leave them in shallow graves to be eaten by scavengers on purpose. There are so many things. Mummification is another method of death rites, and either those, in many ways, those death rites are just as important for the society and for the individuals that have had a loss, as well as the person who has passed. So either in your world, maybe the death rites prevent those people from rising again as spirits, or excuse me, the death rites, particular death rites, cause them to rise again, or maybe even specifically certain death rites create certain types of undead. So imagine like in your world, like if people are mummified, there's a certain culture that, you know, when someone dies, they remove the organs and they specially prepare the body with oils or lotions and rituals and entomb them. And once they do that, the person that died can rise again as maybe a ghost to protect the tomb or even protect the community or something. And you can play with it based on which races exist in your world. If you're in fantasy races, maybe elves and gnomes and halflings become different types of undead versus humans and half orcs or dragonborn and such. Like, you don't very often see zombie drow or wraiths that are halflings or dragonborn skeletons or something like that, right? You could have different races become different things, or based on the death rites, they could become different types of undead, for good or bad. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are quote unquote evil or hungry spirits. Maybe they just hang around to protect particular communities or locations or tombs, or must pursue their last, maybe they're restless, they have to pursue their last unfinished business. Foolish Kiwi says, in our current setting, ghosts come about through soul binding. There's a powerful empire that sick and old people will sign a debt to, which they will pay back with X number of years of service in their army after being resurrected. And that, I mean, in a way, that now that becomes an economy, right? Where the old and the sick, they want to be cared for. Maybe their loved ones are cared for. Maybe they sign a debt, this debt to pay back. And by that soul binding with this empire, they are able to care for their families or their children. Maybe they have a true dedication to their nation, or they have a smaller village or town or outpost, and they want to see this empire. Maybe they're like draconian, they're kind of evil, and to keep them their small community, instead of taxes, these people donate their lives, basically a portion of their lives, that when they serve these people, maybe they pass away or they go through a rite where their soul's taken out, and now they serve this evil empire. And so instead of like the evil necromancer raising the dead, these people are coming to them for that, maybe for gold or privileges, maybe out of honor, or it could be out of fear. Hey, they could crush our town, so we five are donating ourselves. We are signing a contract. We are giving of ourselves, I don't know, 50 years of service to this empire to keep our people safe. And the empire then they benefit twofold, right? Maybe this small village offers them food, other supplies. They work hard because they don't want to be punished. At the same time, they're old and sick come to them, and now they are using them in this evil empire. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they become mindless. They could become ghosts or wraiths or any number of other undead in your world, whether you want to use like 5th edition. They could become mummies or boy, all the number of undead are skipping my mind because there's so many of them, but not all of them are mindless. Excuse me. Some could become could retain their intelligence or earn their intelligence back, their self-motivation back through years of service. And maybe their reason for joining has changed, and now maybe they see why this evil empire, or evil, calling it evil, maybe can see why this necrotic empire exists and come to join them. Or it could be that they thought that they were honorable and just and they were doing the right thing, and they join them, and then they're like, ooh, this isn't right. And there could be those in the midst who are like, wait a minute, I joined for a good reason. I'm thinking they're evil, but really I'm stuck in the middle, right? Because Dead Man gives some ideas of because my mind was stuck with some undead liches, shadows, skeletons. Liches, you know, apex predator of sorts, air quotes predator. Um, the person craving power and trying to live forever for that power. Shadows, forgot about shadows. Shadows are awesome. They have that double origin kind of, because you can think of like shadows and shadow demons, or shadows, someone existing but their shadow becomes animated. Of course there's skeletons, zombies as well. And there's nothing saying that zombies can't eventually rot to become skeletons either. And that could be part of the terms of service, where a person's body is reanimated when they die, and then certain rituals or rites or people care for them to wrap their bodies to make sure that they don't deteriorate into skeletons. Foolish Kiwi says that's the funny thing about eternal life. You can use it to do a lot of good. But if you end up enslaved, that would be one truly hellish experience, because you'd have to live with choosing to do one evil act. You could spend a lifetime trying to make amends for it, but living forever and being forced to do things that you didn't want to, that's a hell unto itself. Brupu says on Ravnica there is the Obzadat, the Ghost Council. Excuse me. It consists of the ghosts of a founding group. New members are added because of excellence in life, but there is a probation period. And so, exactly, you can have a. We often tend to think of the undead as being single-minded, even if they're intelligent, that they really don't have much purpose beyond like, I was killed in a battle, so I'm just going to battle forever. But like this ghost council, Dead Man says technically it's pronounced licks. Yes and no. I believe 5th edition may have put out a pronunciation period, what do we call audio file or something. But there's also the idea that something is called what it is, like Data versus Data of Star Trek. His name is Data. You can call him Data, but his actual name is Data. So just like Asmodeus and Asmodeus, or there's a ton of words, boulets and bullets. There's plenty of them out there. I think they did put out a pronunciation thing, so I could be wrong. But all of us have. There's a ton of creatures out there and words and locations and stuff that we've been pronouncing our own way for a long time. Drow and Dro. Oh man, there's all. Honestly, the pronunciation is correct in your setting. There's no pronunciation police going to go around unless you work for WotC. That's going to go and stop you from calling liches licks and all that kind of stuff. In which case, excuse me, you could, I don't know, you can default down to your own language, like how the words are placed together in your own language, or just default to whatever you used to call it, or default to what you've seen in the video, just like sigil and sigil. The town in excuse me, in the outer plains, in the center of the outer plains, those kind of things. Yeah, you're always going to have those kind of issues. There is no, you could get into fights about that. I think it's silly. But the point of having a council of like ghosts, or council of, I mean, we've seen councils of vampires. You could have a council of various different types of undead, whether it's like licks or ghosts and shadows and mummies, wraiths and wights. You know, based on their purview or how they were cursed, or based on their life, their knowledge maybe, or how they were, what they did in life, whether they were politically savvy or very rich, or extremely brilliant or masterful warriors. And then because they can live forever, or or technically live forever, maybe needing to possess people's bodies or feed their own hungers and such. They can serve forever. And unfortunately, for people who live in eternity, not only is it bad for everybody around them, but if they are suffering through something, even if it's psychological, uh, their psychological harm is going to bleed over into their physical, because of their powerful physical abilities that the rest of us suffer. So despite someone dying for quote unquote good reasons, a knight that is slain on a battlefield that rises again as a wraith or a wight to continue the fight. If the war is over, maybe this knight is thinking, hey, the war is not over. The enemy still is out there. I need to go kill them, because one day they may pick up swords. I'm killing innocent, but I'm still following what do you call it? I'm still following the tenets of my world. Dead Man the Storyteller says from D&D 3.5, the Libris Mortis, the Book of Undead. Yeah, about the pronunciations and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can get into all that, but then what happens where anyone who hasn't read that book, I've never read that book, so then you get into the problem of rules errata and that kind of thing. If no one's ever seen it before, are they wrong, or they didn't purchase it? Are they, are they wrong? Technically, no. It's something else. That's another rabbit hole. Rickard Johansson says, touched on it earlier, raised from the dead to serve a sentence, or raised or reanimated. And let's presume that the people believe, or there really is a greater, there is an afterworld, and maybe these people know that they're going to go someplace they don't want to, and out of maybe service to their family, their nation, duty, to avoid punishment, to go to some other punishment, like a hell in their culture, they could give of themselves as a sentence, or the government could sentence certain criminals or people or violators of whatever the crimes are. Even if it's a quote unquote good nation, even as a good nation, they could still say, hey, listen, you turned against us, so now you're going to serve us forever, or at least as long as your body or your mind exists or your spirit lives, you're going to serve us forever. Which, would that make a good and just nation evil for doling out that punishment for criminals and other violators? Who knows? When in doubt, role play it out. Foolish Kiwi says another great 3.5 book for ghosts is called Ghost Walk. It's not super common, but it's all about intelligent ghosts. Has a ton of inspiration. And Dead Man says, the Storyteller says, similar to the D&D 3.0 Book of Vile Darkness, right? There's so many things you can pull from. And I think one of the things we tend to ignore is society's impact on the existence of an afterlife, the act of people dying, and the act of rebirth, reanimation, reincarnation, and those kind of things. Yes, we have books, we have spells, and we want to make up player characters, and we want them to be badass. But in your particular world, just because something exists does not mean it's going to be used as it is. There's the old silly image of very beginnings of D&D, where the player characters are like carrying around their compatriots that died in the dungeon to go look for the resurrection store, right? Hey, I've got 50,000 gold. Let's go find somebody to resurrect them. And it's like, well, not every culture is, it's like going to just for cash resurrect some random dude that died, being a murder hobo, killing creatures that didn't want to be killed and stealing their stuff and down deep in dungeons, walking around and festooned with weapons and magic and stuff. Like, it doesn't really work. In a setting that you want to feel more realistic, it would not necessarily work in that manner. Now, of course, there's always exceptions, right? Game of Thrones, we've seen the dead rise. We've seen people resurrected from the dead, and we've seen people. You know, there's the one cleric of sorts who is just like, hey, I believe this stuff, but I'm a drunk and I'm just hanging out with these rebels, and I don't go to the church or anything. But he's able to resurrect the guy, and then we have somebody else, Melisandre or something. She comes across as kind of evil and fanatical, and she loses her faith, and she's just like, they're like, can you bring him back? And she's like, I don't know if it's even possible. And she brings somebody back. So there's always exceptions, because maybe the gods, if they control when an actual person's spirit comes back to the material world, maybe they decide, not us, but maybe they decide on that kind of thing. Rickard Johansson says, could be a fixed amount of time as well. So just keeping them away from the afterlife rather than keeping them locked up. And that could be, a method of like you want to go to the afterlife? Okay. We're going to hold you for 20 years before you go to the afterlife, but we promise that we will send you there holy in spirit, right? Maybe they don't know where they're going to go in the afterlife, and this is kind of their barter to get there. Or it could be propaganda. Maybe there is no, there is no choice by these governments, and they're like, no, if you serve us, we'll make sure you go. So that's another thing too. Propaganda has a lot to do with it. Once people's beliefs are cemented, there's not very much you can do to easily change it, despite evidence to the contrary. Foolish Kiwi says, I would imagine both gods who create life and gods of death would equally dislike people avoiding the system by lingering on the earth. Yeah, of course that makes sense, right? It's like, hey, we've got this thing going here. I'm the god of death, they're the god of life. We got this whole cycle going, and you're disrupting it. Even if it means that one side gains power. So let's say the god of death gains more power the more there are dead. At some point, there wouldn't be any dead. If the whole world becomes the undead, like that would kind of disrupt the system. And if they're undead, they're not necessarily in the underworld, so they might get a little pissed off about that too. Prue says, quote, you won't get the burial rites until you serve your sentence. Pretty cool to have a world where you can prolong existence by putting off parts of a traditional burial ritual, which, hey, you put your loved one on ice, and they've got to serve until they're able to pass on to the other side. And it could be a merit system. Maybe in this particular culture, they are prevented from going to the other side because they still have a life unfinished. And once they fulfill that, for good or bad, maybe they're evil or something, or maybe they're trying to do something good. This evil ghost or wraith or mummy or whatever used to be a good guy, and they're trying to exact revenge or fulfill a mission or save some people before they can move on to the other side, and then they're able to let go. The society will allow them to let go, you know what I mean, to go through the specific burial rites. They may even preside over their own burial rites, hoping that it works. A dead man says that's an actual thing in Exalted. And Tesla Ranger says, do not resurrect Meta Alert bracelets. Oh, I'm undead and I can't go back to life. You're falling on the ground. Oh man, that's thanks for the 2:00 in the morning image of the old ladies in the commercials. I've fallen and I can't get up. Oh man. Oh, sorry. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Rickard Johanna says, speaking of Exalted, always liked Ghost Flower tea from Exalted when it comes to cultures interacting with the spirit world. I don't remember that one. Poo-Poo says that would also mean that you can let them go at your leisure. Those in order, I mean, those in power probably would, right? If depending on how much they want to flaunt that power, someone who served them very well, they may not want to let them go. And that might be a point of contention where the society is like, look, you made a promise they serve for 50 years, they're able to go. This is the end of their term. It's been 49 years and 364 days. You got one last day to serve you, and then they're going. Like, it's like the gladiatorial ring, right? You can fight to earn your freedom, but if you can never become free, would the people rebel against that? And how would they rebel? Everybody dies at some point. Easy to abuse, easy to have a system like that be abused, which in and of itself is a great story as well. Rick, Johannes says, Johansson says, a drug that lets the living interact with the spirits. How much they have taken determine how the interaction happens from dreams to physical contact. Okay. For those who may be unfamiliar with that happened in the Black Panther movie. They drink the purple heart-shaped flower and able to commune with their ancestors, and that communion may be good, it may be bad. They may learn things they don't want to. They may gain knowledge about something that they had no knowledge of. They could gain magical knowledge and have powers unlocked. They could be severely punished and turn mindless because they speak to the spirits, and they find out that sure, you're going to serve, but your body will serve, but your mind belongs to us in the council, or something like that. One way to defeat a protective ghost would be to find their body and perform these rites. Dark side of this could be parents losing children and not wanting to let go. That's what Prue says. And that's one thing that we, the taboo thing that we tend to overlook is, when a player says, hey, I want to be a necromancer, I want to have an army of undead. But every one of those undead belongs to someone. Their body belongs to someone, and their spirit belongs to someone as well. And there are many who are going to take kindly to that. And, when a necromancer is wanting to raise an undead army, are they choosing between like the kids and the elderly, the criminals and the just who've died and passed on? Maybe not. Maybe they're not very selective. And if you're not very selective, you could be doing undue harm both to the spirits of the afterworld, to their physical bodies by desecrating them, and to the culture in general by walking around with their loved one who they buried 6 years ago. Infinite Roleplay, welcome back. Yeah, they unlocked my account. I won't be doing the movie clips or television clips or anything like that ever again. I've been spanked and my cheeks are red, and I won't happen again. But also with undead rites, there maybe some cultures look forward to the moment of their death, especially in warrior cultures, cultures where living conditions are harsh, where life is cheap, even, that some people may look forward to death. They look forward to this pristine afterlife, and they know that they have to go through some sort of purgatory or hell. And maybe that, instead of going to another world, maybe the purgatory, maybe the hell, maybe the trials that they have to go through are not just the living ones, but also this in between period where they become undead temporarily, whether by chance or by choice or by decree, until they are able to pass on. And it could be that, people are like, hey, we need to stop doing this. There could be the new generations like, you could just pass on to the afterlife. You don't have to walk around as the undead, which is another thing too. The new cultures challenging old cultures, new gods taking over the place of older gods, different gods of death having different dominion over different types of undead, or resurrections, or returning to life. There could be a heavy price to pay for someone who's able to bring in a PC back to life from the brink of death, and maybe they bring something with them, like they bring with them a shadow or a ghost, or maybe for every resurrection, a true resurrection, a ghoul is created that will eat the dead, or something like that. Like, you could have those elements in your world, and and put it in there and say, hey, yeah, you can resurrect your character, you can bring him back from the dead, you can cast those spells, but every time you do so, a shadow is created, and 5 shadows together can make a ritual or open a portal for a shadow demon to come forth to hunt you down or something. And the more you do it, the more people get hunted down. Excuse me. Village Kiwi says a forlorn father creating dozens of failed copies of his daughter's spirit from his memories of her, each one coming out different due to his emotional state swinging and what he remembered doing. And what a great story, right? Like I was saying, it's all about, if you know, when in doubt, role play it out. Could you imagine these wild spirits of this father who lost his daughter, and he's just overcome with grief, and whatever it is he's doing, whether it's a ritual, whether it's just from his very passion, he's given of himself, and he keeps trying to bring her back, and all he's doing is just creating these fragments, these twisted fragments of his memories with her. And it could be the mission could be to reconstitute all the fragments. It could be to bring back the true spirit of his lost daughter. It could be laying all the fragments to rest. Depending on how twisted his memories are of her, maybe there's like 15 different memories, and each one is twisted, and each one becomes its own thing. One becomes corporal, has a physical body. Wow, I just cannot pronounce anything. Becomes an old hag. Another one gains power, becomes a lich. Another one is a powerful ghost possessing the bodies of the living and affecting things. I mean, it could have a widespread effect, and he doesn't know or even care about the ramifications. He just wants her back, and maybe he's the only one. She's twisted and does all these horrendous things, and could still just be a small child, even, which would be even more sick, and is able to murder hundreds of people, but will never harm the father, even though he sees all the horrible things that she's doing. Ricker said that's an amazing plot. Yeah, I think so too. That's why I was going down that doing down that thing. Foolish Kiwi mentions the pro. You remind me of an NPC with that last post. This whole stream is super relevant to our current game. That's awesome. Foolish Kiwi. So far, the party has met Alice, Alphetus, and Annabelle, but there's dozens out there. Yeah, and they could all have this tangential connection to each other. Like they're all performing their own evil acts, but they're not necessarily acting against each other. You know what I mean? Poo says, I love the thought of cross-plane parasites that travel back with resurrected people, just hitching a ride, some of them for their own solo purposes, some of this part of a bigger nefarious plan. So, right. So when you, what is the movie Flatliners is a good example. Like, hey, you can cross over, but when you come back to this world, you bring something with you. As was mentioned earlier in the chat, right? The gods of life and death. Hey, you're disrupting the system. You're supposed to live, and then you're supposed to die at your appointed time, and then you come to the afterworld, and maybe later on, through afterworld merit points or something, you can go back to life. And that might be in 2 years, it might be in 2,000 years, but we have a process. And with you affecting the process, every time you resurrect someone, you're bringing back something with you, whether, like you said, it could be a psychic parasite. It could be a growth inside of your body, a physical growth. It could be a portal where a creature in another part of the nation exists. It could be your own shadow. At night, your own shadow may animate and perform its own evil acts. And again, with my movie thing, it could be like Lady Hawk. Ladies, Harry P, what's up? Yeah, I'm back. Thanks, man. It could be like Lady Hawk, the old 80s medieval adventure movie, which is a good movie, where a gentleman and a woman are a warrior and his princess are cursed, and he becomes a wolf at night, she becomes a hawk during the day, and they only have a momentary glance of each other. They can never be with each other. So during the day, he travels with her and she is a hawk, and at night she's this, princess that roams through the woods with this wolf, and it could be that when the PC sleeps, this thing it brings back with them is active, and when the PC is awake, it is inactive. And it can't be, unless the PC sacrifices themselves or finds a ritual or is able to excise this parasite, this rider, this unsettled spirit, this section of its own personality, maybe even, they could never do anything. And once they fall unconscious, they go to sleep. At night, they pass out. This thing awakens and does its own thing. And until the PC wakes up, it is completely independent. Or maybe the PC knows it exists. Maybe the PC doesn't know it exists. Maybe they see the ramifications of other people who have done the same thing after being brought back from the dead, and they're like, "Ooh, wait, I'm the cause of this." Uh-oh. And then, of course, they're popping back, cups of coffee, like, "I need to stay up. I don't want to go to sleep. The evil's going to get out of me," or something. That would be pretty interesting. Could you imagine a holy paladin, trying to stay awake as long as it could, or using rituals around itself before it falls asleep, and must perform sacred rites to keep this evil inside of it. Yet this has not only brought the paladin back to life, but extended its own life so that it could continue in its missions of good, knowing that it's carrying around this evil inside of it. Pretty good stories, man. Yeah, Proof says love it, kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, but then not. This will super make it into my game. Yeah, I mean, and maybe even you could even grant someone like inspiration or fate points or whatever it is you're using in your game when the PC tries to parlay with this hungry spirit inside of it, or this thing that wants something other than what the PC wants. And just before they fall asleep, it's that REM, that deep sleep, maybe even when they fall deep and they can't even be woken up, they talk to them in a dreamscape, and like they're trying to bargain with them or appease it or focus these dark things. You could even keep it, this would be super serious, you got to be careful this, but you could keep it super secret for like so many gaming sessions, and you come to find out like the enemy knows what they're doing, because the spirit, this evil inside of them, when they fall asleep, just reports on everything they're doing to the evil empire. It's like, no, the PCs are going west. They've marched this way. Here are their abilities. They've lost one of their party members. They've got so much gold. Yeah, one's a cleric, one's made a warlock pact with something. Yeah, I'm going to let you know everything. Oh, he's about to wake up. Time to go back. It may not be that simple, but it could be pretty nasty. Especially if the PCs are the adventuring good types, and other evil things look at them and start bowing to them. That'd be kind of nasty. Yeah, like in Diablo, Rickard Johansson says, like in Diablo 2, where they have trapped an evil spirit in a host to keep it contained. He said, Rickard said, can't remember which prime evil was trapped. Diablo 2, it's been a while. But yeah, Infinite says that's how every warlock pack should be played. Yeah, especially where you sleep, not sleep, but the PC is just off on their own, maybe meditating, maybe gazing off into the distance. But in reality, they have this, like, they're arguing with this thing inside of them, and this thing inside of them, it could be the warlock patron itself, or it could be an agent of the warlock, and the agent of the warlock is like, look, we're both sharing the same body, dude. Like, you need to get your sleep, and I need to live. And we've both made pacts with the same warlock patron, and you're stuck in this as well as I am, man. We got to live with each other. So yeah, that would be pretty nasty. Would take a really good player and would love it. Yeah, that's what Prue says. Yeah, you to allow something like that in the game, yeah, that would be really awesome. What's the game? Wraith the Oblivion, and its various permutations thereof are excellent for that. A Dead Man Storyteller says, I believe that was Mephistopheles. Probably talking about Diablo 2. But yeah, there's I, oftentimes we as the player characters, we the PC, we the creators, we're like, oh, I want to be a warlock and get all the benefits, and don't want to live with the ramifications of what they've done. And as much as a warlock pact is personal, you're not the only one, right? This powerful being might have dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of its own agents working, including putting an agent inside of you. And you just so happen to have the side effects of having some great powers, sure. But really, you might be the pawn in this whole thing. Yeah, go wander and go adventuring and stuff, whatever. But the real agent might be something that was brought back from across the membrane of the between the living and the dead, and the patron has put this thing inside of you, and it knows you got to live. So we've given you these abilities. Simply it riding inside of you is given these abilities so that you can survive, that you do have power, that you can fight off the harshest of landscapes and the most dire of threats. But really, you're just a vessel for something else. And although there are no gaming statistics for those kind of those interactions, it's lovely story seeds. Great mind fuel for that. What else? There could also be in your setting, there could be time limits to specific types of death rites. In our own world, some people say someone has to be interred in 24 hours. Some say that your body should not be disturbed. Maybe death rites have to be done at a particular time of day or location, or done on the spot, whether it's in a courtyard or out in the field or something. Maybe particular cultures, whatever your belief is, if your specific death rite is not followed, maybe you will rise again. The Viking burning ships, I'm going to get this wrong. I want to say Aztecs, not the rituals of killing, but like putting people up on stilts for the dead. Maybe that might have been indigenous peoples here in the States, but whatever the case may be, people hung up in trees or up in mountaintops or something like that, and maybe they come back. I think I've mentioned this before, where we talk about the undead, but maybe there's a culture where they don't come back as the undead. Dwarves don't have to come back as skeletons or zombies. They could come back as stone golems or earth elementals or other Zorns or something, some other earth-like being or creature or something. Ted Made Storyteller says funerary barges, or pyres. Absolutely. And belief could be very powerful. So let's say one culture believes in the burning pyres or the burning barges. They may come back if that's not done, whereas maybe in another culture they need to be buried, under the earth. Aboriginal, it could be Aboriginal. I'm no expert. I don't know. I'm saying I don't know. So the dead in trees saying it was Aboriginal. Yeah. And it could be pretty interesting if the undead aren't the classic undead. So the ones burned on fire could become giants or something. The ones in trees could become animated treants. The ones buried under the ground or set out to sea or something could become water elementals or some other aboleth or so. I don't know. I mean, you can have fun with it in terms of like, hey, your belief, the gods that you believe in, the pantheon that you worship. You could have one pantheon where everyone believes in the 5 elder gods or something, and each of those elder gods takes one of their own, and the PCs may follow one or more of these pantheon, and that's how they return to life, right? It doesn't necessarily mean like when someone returns to life, maybe it isn't resurrection. Maybe a particular culture, their resurrection is reincarnation. Hey, they come back as a wolf, they come back as a bear. um, it could be something of that nature where they have to earn their place back as in a resurrected form, especially druids, rangers, woodland type, connected to nature. Maybe they have to earn their way back. You have to live a fortnight as a wolf before you can retain your human form again or something. And that could be a good way to, or a strange way, but a good way to bring a PC back without like, nah, you're just alive with all your stuff. Like maybe they become the familiar, the pet, the mount to the group temporarily when they play until they can earn back their status or something. Maybe it's a time limit, so 101 days, or it could be 9 penitent acts, or it could be first they become a bird, and then they become a wolf, and then they become a bear, and then they become a tree, or they could go through a cycle of something in order to earn themselves back again. That'd be pretty interesting to bring. Again, you really have to do a session 0, right? Or not even session 0. It could be like, ooh, PC died. What are we gonna do? Let's have a talk about it between sessions and see if you're up to it. And they may go, dude, that'd be awesome. I get to play a winter wolf or a blink dog or something like that. Yeah, I'll play that temporarily till I'm able to serve my time here until my spirit can come back. That'd be awesome. Which could be the origin of some of those things out in the wild. Like maybe dire wolves or wargs are actually the spirits of those who are trying to come back to life. And based on their choices, maybe some need to be put down, others you got to let them live, and that could be a point of contention as well. Like the druid's like, no, we need to let the wolves live, and someone else is like, no, but they're terrorizing the townsfolk, and the druid is like, no, they're just trying to eat. They have 39 days left to prove of themselves. We need to let them live, and that could be a point of contention as well. You got story seeds and whatnot. Undead mimic. Here we go. You know what? The mimic is always around. The mimic likes to stick around and see what's going to happen. Yeah, pretty silly. Prue says, as a player, I would jump on that, and the group might not know that it was even me at first. Ooh, I want to play a druid game now. See, the mimic is always there. Remember, you don't notice the mimic till the mimic comes out. Although an undead mimic, would an undead mimic be stuck in its body? Or could an undead mimic only mimic those things that are like rotted and stuff? Maybe that would have to be a doppelganger for undead. But would an undead doppelganger only be able to doppelgang into undead creatures? Pretty interesting. Ooh, an undead doppelganger that becomes can only take the form of those that have died. That'd be pretty interesting. Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. For those who don't know, I started a live stream and we talked about the mimic and and some silliness thereof. And so the mimic just comes back over and over again, and about how the mimic is a staple of D&D. It's a classic creature. It's a great one. It's funny. It's dangerous. It's hideous. It's powerful, and it always comes back. Rickard says, undead mimic latched on to someone that got resurrected. Yeah. Here's your backpack back. Yeah, it's not a backpack. It's a mimic just riding around. It's waiting for its time to hook up with the other undead, to become the pet of the other undead doppelganger gang. Yeah. Bruce says the mimic has become a memic by now. Yeah, it is pretty much a meme now. In our little circle. So yeah, I'm gonna start winding it down a little bit here. Guys, I've deep dived into OBS Studios. You might see some changes on the channel, not changes like what I'm going to do or how I talk or all that kind of stuff, but you might see some little details around the edges, some lower thirds, some maybe some icons, maybe some movement, all those kind of things. Make it look a little more professional. Clean myself up a little bit. Thanks JP for giving me the push to do that. Thanks YouTube for putting me on punishment to get me to learn something yet again. I might be dumb, but I'm not stupid. So yeah. But anyway, guys, all the information you guys need to know about me, what I do, the people I'm connected with is all downstairs. Check out Critical Hit Publishing. I'm one of the contributing writers. Check out our books on Drive Through RPG. Join the Discord. Check out the people I'm connected with. Infinite Roleplay, Darius Jana, RP Gamer, Power Up Gamers, who Absolute Tabletop, all these guys. Con Plus One, the online convention that's coming up in November. Whatever, join all that stuff. Check it out. If you like what I do, thanks a lot. If you don't like what I do, let me know. Because if you're sticking this long through it, you're just like asking for the punishment. I don't get that part. But yeah, Bruce says, DBJ, can we talk about the rules and ideas for splitting the party while maintaining pacing and fun at the table sometime? Yes. That's going to be, I'm not going to do it this week. So I'm going to tell you that right up front. It's going to be next week's subject. So we can do that all next week, like splitting the party, pacing, rules and things, all those kind of things. Yeah, absolutely. You got it, Prue. Yeah, seriously though. Yeah, we can talk about that because splitting the party thing is a real big deal. Great subject. Yeah. So we can talk about rules for it, splitting parties. I've got some kooky suggestions out there for people that want to do that. So yeah, that'll be a subject. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Prue, thanks for giving me the idea. Again, just like Prue did, if you have a certain subject or something you want to talk about, or like, man, this thing's been just on my mind or something, let me know in the various social medias. I don't know, Google Plus. Sometimes I post to that, but I'm not on it as often as I should be. Facebook, all those kind of things, all that's below. Yeah, thanks very much for saying feel better. Got the cruise crud. I had a great time. So maybe that's just a side effect. Yeah, whatever. You got to live through it. It's that time of year here. So yeah, guys, I appreciate the attention. They're probably Sunday or one of the creators conclaves. I'll probably talk about the issue with Roll20 and Nolan T, whatever his name is, and that kind of thing. I don't want to put it on the main channel because I'm not really a political eyes. Like, yeah, I'm not that kind of person. But as someone who's a content creator, I thought about keeping my mouth shut, but I think I will talk about it in generalized terms. And just like we talk here, that's how I am. I'm a very rational, open discussion kind of person. So we'll talk about it then. My generalized opinions on it, not the specific situation, but just about how I view myself in the community and the reactions of people who are like, should people market to someone like myself versus marketing to a large majority of people who are not like me, right? And those kind of things. So yeah, we'll talk about it then. So guys, thank you very much for joining me. Why does it seems like my video is just like really out of focus or something. Anyway, it sounds very interesting. We'd love to hear from you on that subject. Yeah, and you know what? Don't expect a whole lot of cussing and getting pissed off and all that. I might get emotional. I could probably promise I'll get emotional, but it won't be like people need to do this and you need to. I'm not that kind of person. I like to bring. I just want to bring how I feel looking at it from the outside and whether I am an outsider, whether I'm brought into the fold, whether it feels like I'm being pushed out of the fold, marketing versus playing with your friends, you know, the business side versus the fun side. We have to talk about that part of it too. So yeah, we'll do all that. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me. As always, you guys bring me a lot of fuel. Got to take the meds, but I still got to go to work too. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, man. Thanks.